Hello and welcome back to the Fit for Business and Life podcast. The Fit for Business Life podcast is brought to you by Sharp Fit for Life and the Business Buddy Network, helping busy professionals and their teams become more happier, healthier and higher achieving in business and in life, so they feel fitter, healthier and more confident. The Fit for Business Life podcast is brought to you by myself, Martin Sharp. I'm a 30-year change maker in businesses large and small, along with some amazing special guests who are going to be sharing their wisdom, their know-how, their expertise in changing businesses and themselves, featuring some amazing stories, some fantastic golden nuggets for you to implement, and some ways that you can actually make your life even better starting today. We're on all the socials, so please give us a follow if you're seeing us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Plus, you'll be able to follow this podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, wherever you consume your amazing podcasts from. And if you feel like this is something that will benefit a friend or a colleague, then please feel free to share it with them. You never know just who might need that little bit of inspiration or that little bit of know-how to really make a magnificent change in their life. So, without further ado, welcome back to the Sharp Fit for Business Life podcast. And I'd like to introduce our special guest today, which is Ruth Driscoll. Now, Ruth is an amazing change maker in her own right. She's an author, speaker, coach, and she's also known as the Life Liberator. She's been making people feel empowered in some of those most disempowering situations so they can take control and really live their best life moving forwards with some great skills, some great inspiration, and some great support around that. So, welcome, Ruth.
Oh, thank you, Martin, and thank you for inviting me along to this podcast.
You're welcome. Now, this one's a podcast special. This one we're talking about Kilimanjaro. So for you guys that have been following along over the last few months, you've probably heard me talk about Kilimanjaro, how we're doing this in September, which is only now a month away. What you might not know is actually Ruth's coming with us.
I am.
So the pair of us have been busy getting our fitness levels that little bit more, getting used to the idea of walking for hours on end, and also trying to work out what it is we need to be taking with us. So this has been on my bucket list for years. And I think I've kind of got to that point in my life where my family has I'm not going to say no longer need me, but they've got to a point where they're actually more independent. So it means that I've been able to take a look back at my bucket list and say, actually, which some of the bigger adventures that I can take on. So with the amazing support from Sarah, thank you, Sarah, we're starting with Kilimanjaro in September.
Yes.
So what's kind of been your inspiration for wanting to do Kilimanjaro?
Well, it wasn't something I was thinking about doing, I have to admit. But Martin, it was when you said that you were going to be doing it and, that you were going to be inviting people to come along with you. And I thought, well, why not? Because sometimes you just have to say yes to the opportunities that come along. I had done a trek in the Himalayan mountains, but that was quite a few years before, and I hadn't really been planning on doing another one. But for me, I think the particular inspiration behind it was that it was a real driver to work on my own fitness levels. Because you know what it's like in life, especially when you're a busy professional, that looking after yourself is the one thing that can so easily be put to the bottom of the list. And I think that's what I had found was happening, that, I was ticking all those other boxes, but not that box, that really important box that was looking after me and keeping myself at peak performance. So I thought, well, I'm scared stiff, but it's going to be a good driver. It's going to push me out of my comfort zone. It's going to make me prioritize that my own fitness levels.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting how you kind of linked that kind of goal, so something that's big, slightly out of the ordinary now, to actually become the thing you're working towards, because now I know you've put in place things such as how you're eating is differently. You've brought in intermittent fasting, you've brought in walking. I mean, you do walk every day with the dog anyway.
I do, yeah.
But it's those extra few miles, doing those hills, etc.
And that more pace, not doing a gentle stroll, but actually, making sure I'm working at pace as well.
So having that kind of that challenge, that kind of goal in front of you, it's kind of just brought everything into play. So you've improved the process skills of how to get there, along with that kind of big outcome. And it's almost like having that great big carrot dangling in front of you.
Yes, yes. And the other thing I realise is that, probably from the place that I started to where I need to be for Kilimanjaro, I'm probably not going to be in the best possible place that I would have loved to have been in. However, it's a journey I've now started. And so long as I'm good enough to be able to manage the demands of this expedition to Kilimanjaro, then, it means now I'm putting in place the priorities. I've changed my priority levels, which I need to make sure I'm continuing once we return from the expedition.
Yep. And you know what that means? Another goal when you get back.
Well, you know what? I think you're right, Martin.
And as crazy as it sounds, I mean, you've seen my journey over the last, well, you've
Oh,
been instrumental in
amazing.
it over the last 5, 6 years, and it has only been because of putting those different goals in there to make sure I keep going. There's just a cat on the fence that if you're wondering what we were
Well, I
actually.
tell you what, it's an interesting story about the cat because my next door neighbours have just adopted two cats, and normally they can't come into my garden because my dog's here.
Ah,
So although you can see the cat would love to come and visit, and is indeed approaching, every time it tries, it gets chased out by the dog. But my dog's staying with my sister because we were doing something rather special yesterday, weren't we?
that's right. So yesterday was again really kind of pushing things. So we went out to do the Surrey Three Peaks, which is obviously
Yes.
something as a way of being able to test various different things. So we're testing things like our equipment, our fitness levels, our skill, and also being able to see how we get on with like multi-hour. Um, this cat's lovely.
The cat's coming. Can you hear the jingle of his little bell?
But yeah, how we kind of get on with like multi-hour walks. So we've
Yes,
done multi-hour. So yesterday was 20. It's 35 kilometers, so over 23 miles. We did 1,500 and something meters of ascent. So when we look at this back to what we'll be doing on Kilimanjaro, we're not going to be doing that amount of horizontal distance because it's more steeper. But from an ascent point of view, we've done more than the ascent we need to do on a daily basis. We've also done more hours than we need to do. So the key thing for today is making sure we're going out for another walk.
we do have a little visitor who's wanting to come and make friends here. I don't know whether you can see him or not.
I think this is
It's either Clarence or Rupert. That's their names, but I haven't yet had the chance to work out which one is which.
it's the first cat we've had on the show.
There we go.
Yeah.
See, that's how you know it's live. Anything can happen.
Exactly. So yeah, so we need to
Which
make
is the
sure.
same thing that happens on expeditions.
This is very true, and it's being prepared. So we've got everything that we need. So make
Yes.
sure, again, from a gear perspective, we've got the additional equipment we need to take. We've got the emergency stuff. So we've gone through tablets and bandages and all that kind of lovely stuff, and also things like making sure we've just got the right gear because we're going to go up to minus temperatures. We get into the Arctic zone and the Alpine zones. So it's really kind of being prepared for that vast array of being very hot at the bottom where we're going to be in 30-degree weather and walking at that, right way up to the top where we could be down to minus 30-degree weather.
I know, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah. Which, provides that sort of extra degree to the challenge. And this is where I'm hugely grateful to Martin because, he's just the king of all the knowledge and research around all of these things. So I've been very fortunate to be able to benefit from all of that amazing knowledge that you have, Martin. Plus your knowledge around nutrition and what your body needs to be able to keep going and maintain the endurance and
Yep.
yeah,
When you need to
and recover.
Yep. When you need to bring the jelly babies out. Yep.
Yes. When's the jelly baby moment?
And all these things, you make some fun out of it, but there is some real serious science behind it, which kind of helps, because then you kind of understand, again, sometimes when you understand why things are happening, suddenly you know then actually how you can equate the feelings that you've got, the effects that are kind of happening, with actually what you can do about it.
And that's a really key thing, the science behind it, because again, something I learned from you, Martin, was really why, when the climb itself, probably distance wise, isn't that great, why take 7 days to do it? What's the science behind that? And probably better you explain it than me, because although you've really developed my understanding of it,
Mhm.
because obviously when you're ascending, one of the major hazards is altitude sickness.
It is definitely, and it's how you can allow your body to adapt, because there's going to be various physiological change that happens with the size of your heart, the amount of the blood that needs to be pumped around, the fact that the oxygen content in your blood is going to be lower. So all these kind of physiological changes have to happen in your body, otherwise you potentially can end up with altitude sickness. So the longer and slower you do your ascent, the more likely it is you're going to get to the top. And again, I've passed a lot of this knowledge on to Pat Falvey, who, thank you very much, who we're going to be climbing with as well.
Yeah.
He's a world adventurer, an amazing guy. We've had him on the podcast before, so please go back and have a look at the Pat Falvey episode. Amazing chap. I'm sure we're going to be having a few more with him as we're climbing Kilimanjaro as well. But learning effectively some of those kind of physiological changes, why they kind of happen. And again, it kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off, because I know one of the things you were really worried about is being the slowest person walking up there.
Yes, you're right.
But the Swahili word for going up the mountain is going to be pole pole, which means slowly, slowly. And that is the pace we need to be going at. So when we were doing the walk yesterday, we kept that nice, slow, steady pace. You didn't feel dreadfully out of breath or felt like it was too much of an exertion. I was perfectly okay with it as well. And it's just understanding that is the rhythm we need to be in.
Yeah, and the other key thing about that was, because I was quite worried about the walk yesterday. Would I be able to keep going? In fact, I didn't do the whole walk, because there was a point where I thought, okay, I need to step back, because otherwise we're going to take too long over this. But I did continue then doing gentle walking by myself. Because the other thing I was concerned about was the recovery. Would I, this morning, not even be able to move? And I'm fine. So, that's been a really surprising thing for me, that I think sometimes if you're kind of over ambitious and push yourself more than your limits, that's when you give yourself further problems that you have to deal with. So, yeah, I mean, yes, pushing yourself, but also having an awareness of your own limits as well, perhaps, is a key thing.
Yeah, and it's that interesting thing, isn't it? It's the comfort zone versus the growth zone versus the panic zone, isn't
Oh,
it?
I like that. Yes.
So you need to get into that kind of growth zone, because otherwise
Yeah.
the reality is you will always sit in the comfort zone, or as you call it, the waiting room.
Yes.
And living in the waiting room is just not a fun place to be. You're not to really challenge yourself. And the fact is, from a physiological point of view, that's where we see people really have some significant issues later in life.
Yeah.
Because if you're not challenging your body over your lifespan, then when you get to those last 10 years, or for some people 20 or 30 years, they can have some significant health issues, which really curtails how their health is, and that stops them doing things they want to do in life and makes them feel bad. Whereas having those bursts into that kind of growth, so I mean, don't live in there every day, okay? You are allowed to have comfort, but so moving from as you describe it, from the waiting room into the living room, and taking that moment to get there, actually that's where you feel life. And the other thing that I always find quite interesting, because obviously we've looked at it from a health perspective, but from a mental health perspective, I heard an analogy, someone described it as, we live our lives in scripts. So, for
Mm,
example, if you go to the restaurant, it's the same scripts. You go to a
mm.
restaurant, you wait, you get seated, someone will come over with the menus for you, someone will ask you for what your drinks are going to be, you'll order off the menu, they will bring you food, a little while later they'll ask you how the food was, you'll respond, you'll pay, and you'll
Yeah.
leave. And that is the script. And therefore, even though you might have been to a really lovely restaurant, it becomes a nondescript moment in life.
Mm,
Whereas actually, if you can change that script, and again, this is where bursting into your growth zone, into your living room, you create these moments in life that almost pinpoint what's
yeah.
been going on. And all of a sudden, you have things to talk about. It changes your topic of conversation. It stretches you mentally as well as physically and potentially socially. Because again, you're bringing in new people, new adventures and things.
Well, the other thing that happens, I think, when you're doing that, when you're stretching that comfort zone, when you are challenging yourself, the comfort zone grows.
Mm,
Now, the expectation around exactly what that comfort zone is now different because you've got more belief in yourself, because you've built more confidence in what it is that you're capable of doing. And I think that's the key thing, when you're doing something challenging like the climb of Kilimanjaro, is that it makes you realize that you are capable of so much more than you ever thought that you were, because you're sort of you're pushed back into your own resourcefulness, and you can reach that point. I can remember reaching that point when I did the trek in the Annapurna range in the Himalayas some years ago, thinking to myself, I cannot put one more foot in front of another. But I've got no choice. I've got to keep going up that mountain for at least 3 more hours. And guess what? You do it.
mm,
You actually do it. When you have to, you do it. And so if we can live our life with that belief inside ourselves that we can do it, it's the script that you are giving yourself, rather than, as I was saying to myself, I can't put one more foot in front of another. I've got to change that script in my head and say, I can do it.
yeah. I've seen that witnessed out so many times, so many people, and I'm going to call out to one with Sarah, my wife. Anybody who doesn't like blue language, put your fingers in your ears now. We have what's known as the fuck it moment.
Oh, yep.
Because literally every walk we ever do, every hill walk we ever do is the same. We will start it, and the first few miles it's hard. Things aren't moving the way they should be, and she's really depressed with it, really grinding away. But she'll get to that point where it's like, fuck it, I've got to do it.
Yeah.
And from then on, she enjoys the walk.
It's
And it's
it's
like the best thing
it
ever.
yeah, it's amazing the difference with what you're telling yourself
Mm.
inside your head. On that walk yesterday, there were several times when I thought, I probably need to stop. But I had to, no, change the script route and just keep going, keep going.
I think getting to the top of Holmbury Hill was one of them when we
That one was
that
very
gully.
challenging,
Oh,
yes. I know we don't think of Surrey as having these sort of challenging climbs, but they do.
mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
very beautiful.
it was, and again, I was really pleasantly surprised because when you look at the Surrey Three Peaks route on the map, it's just literally sandwiched in between towns and
Yeah,
villages,
yeah.
etc. But we kind of found a route through it, which was lots of glades and avenues of trees, etc. And because you're kind of in these little valleys or up top of hills, you can't miss a lot of that infrastructure, the urbanization
Yeah.
pieces, and you can actually, if you forget that they're even there, if you were just literally exploring, you wouldn't actually think you were in Surrey.
Well, I mean, there was one moment, wasn't there, when you stopped us in a field and you did a video and we were just listening and you said, listen, can't hear anything but the sounds of nature.
Yeah. Yeah, there was no road noise, which we'd kind of gone beyond, which was brilliant because obviously the A23 was quite close by. There was nothing coming from the flight path from Heathrow
No.
or Gatwick. So again, absolutely just it was just perfect. You could hear the mooing of the cows, you could hear the rustle of the
Yeah.
trees, and I think again that just you wouldn't have ever imagined you could have got that quiet and that spot here, and it literally is only a few miles off your doorstep.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm very fortunate with the location here. Yeah.
Yeah, so at the moment we're in Ruth's garden. So this is a classic English country garden. As you'll see over the next few lives with Ruth, they're going to be changing climates because we've got, as we go up Kilimanjaro, there's 4 different zones we go through, isn't there? There's the rainforest zone, there's the moorland zone, there's the alpine zone, and then the Arctic zone.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Mm.
You know, it's like you were saying, this quiet little spot in a field where you think there should be built up noise all around you. And here, this mountain in the middle of Africa, you know, right close to the equator, right near the Serengeti Plains. And yet, you know, you can go up and experience so many different climatic changes as you go through.
Yeah, and I think I remember reading somewhere about the first set of climbers, the German climbers that went up to the top, but the first set of European climbers,
Yeah.
and they came back and reported snow on there, and everyone was disputing the fact you couldn't have snow in Africa; it was in the tropic zone, etc.
Yeah.
But you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it took years for people to actually accept the fact that you could have these different weather climates in that area.
Yeah.
Which, again, from our point of view as modern humans, seems quite crazy. But actually, we're only talking a couple of 100 years.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
amazing how much our understanding changes as a civilization as well as individuals.
And I think that's a key point, isn't it? That, you know, once you understand change, the rapidity of the progress from that understanding of the change is fantastic. You know, certainly around there can be snow in Africa, but you know, the changes that you make within your own mindset as to what you're capable of. Because once you believe, I can do that, then the rapidity of that change and the progress of that change can be quite great.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, not all change is good. I mean, we're probably
True.
going to be one of the last to see the glaciers on the top of Kilimanjaro. It's receding quite quickly, so probably maybe only a decade or a couple of decades away from maybe losing that. So I again feel quite privileged to be able to go on this trek and see something as spectacular as that has caused various different pieces, literary works, as well as poetry and lots of photographs and pictures being created of that kind of scenery.
And it's also a good lesson for why you should say yes to opportunities that come your way.
Yep.
Because it would have been so easy for me to say, no, I'm too busy. I can't do it. Because, you know, I am frightened. I'll admit it. But, you know, to have that opportunity to know the place that you're in your life and the opportunities that you have right now before you in your life, to embrace those opportunities and make sure that you're not passing them by. And then, as Martin said, you know, a negative change can happen and that opportunity never presents itself. And I think that's the same when it comes to your health, isn't it?
It is
That,
definitely.
you know, by saying, I haven't got time to prioritize my health, you know, those negative changes will happen to your body. And it may be far more difficult then to find a way through and you create those changes that you would love to have happen.
Yeah, and sometimes it doesn't have to be a huge amount of time. It can just be a 5-minute change, a 10-minute change, a 15-minute change.
That's true.
And again, these things kind of snowball because as soon as you start feeling healthier and happier, then you start to equate the change that you're making to results that you're getting. Then that helps snowball it. Then it starts to think, oh, what happens if I do that a little bit more? And one of the kind of biggest issues I find with busy professionals is they are busy. They think they can't have the time. But when you start looking and analysing how they're using the time, many of them, they're doing hours upon hours without a break, which causes the kind of mental blocks, etc., start to happen. And we know from many different studies that have happened in science that if you take a break, you're more likely then to have that kind of mental reset, which means you come back with fresh eyes, with a fresh
Yes.
mind.
Yes.
And if you can go out there and you can do things like stretch your horizons by going for a walk, something as simple as that,
Yeah.
you'll come back in a completely different state. And
Yes.
it has more than just benefits from a mental capability point of view. Things like your eyesight also benefit because you're not just looking at something like a meter away all day.
Yes, it is. It's changing that whole sort of mental attitude as to what we should be doing when we're working, and creating instead a routine and a lifestyle that actually looks after every part of you, not just your business, but also yourself as well, and seeing those changes, because any positive change within the way that your body is operating is going to have an equally beneficial result upon the results for your business as well, and the performance that you're able to put into your business.
Agreed. And I'm kind of hoping that we are seeing that message is getting across not just to individuals, but also to employers. Unfortunately, it's still not a big take
No.
up, certainly from some of the bigger employers. So hopefully with time, this is going to start to be taken on board. I mean, the Japanese have certainly taken a lot more of this on board with what they do, very much more structured, as you can probably imagine. But I think certainly from working with businesses, certainly a lot of large businesses in the UK, we're still not seeing that kind of uptake to say, yeah, actually, it's perfectly okay to have that time to go away and do something completely different.
And I think in instances like that, it is understanding that there are little techniques, little strategies that you can put in place when you literally just have a moment or a couple of moments. And often, that's just, rising up and down on your heels, while you're standing waiting for the coffee machine to, to deliver your coffee for you, or even just, taking your mind out from the day with just a little straightforward kind of mindfulness exercise where, just something as simple as, for example, you just stop yourself and you think, okay, what can I hear? And you're listening for tiny sounds, like I just heard the buzz of a bee, I heard a rattle from a garden close by. I just heard somebody's voice over there in the cricket field. But the key is what I'm doing here. I haven't needed to stop or do anything, but I've stopped my mind from whatever chatter was going on within it, just to focus on what that sense is telling me. And you can do that with your eyesight and do it with your touch. How do my feet feel inside my shoes right now? It's just putting your conscious mind towards those moments, and that stops the conscious mind from crowding up with thoughts. And even that is it's a relaxation technique, but it's only taking you a moment or two. So it's just, having that consciousness, isn't it? And the awareness that even when you feel I have no choice, I've got to sit at my desk for hours after hours, there's still even those tiny little changes that you can make. And as Martin says, tiny changes, they compound
They
over
do,
time.
definitely, yeah. And it's interesting you've taken that moment to listen to auditory what's going on. It's one way visually you can do some of the kind of things, and one of the things I'm a proponent of is getting my clients to really do that when they're in the gym as well. So
Yeah.
that kind of mind muscle connection piece where because you can consciously recruit more muscle fibers by actually squeezing them. And a real classic one, for example, is if you squeeze your bicep and you hold it, just squeeze that a little bit more and that little bit more, you consciously think about this one area. And if that's the only part you're thinking about, again, you're bringing that single-mindedness, effectively, that mindfulness
Yes.
into being, because everything else doesn't matter. It's just the connection between you and your muscles. And you talk about
You can
things.
do that at your desk
Absolutely,
in
yeah.
front of your computer. You can still, while you're sitting there looking at the emails, You can still do that,
Yeah.
can't you? That's a brilliant one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like what's it called? Progressive muscle kind of relaxation is a process of doing it. You tense up a muscle, you hold it there for a moment, and then you relax it again. And you can do that in any muscle you have in your body. And if you're not used to connecting with those muscles, so for example, if it's the quads of your legs, if you just put your fingertips on your quads and then just kind of squeeze your quad muscles, you should feel them in your fingertips as a kind of standing movement. If you just relax them and then do it again. And if you're not used to that feeling, so you can't feel like you're recruiting them, just touching with your fingertips just gives you that extra piece of sensory perception of what's going on. And getting people to just do simple things like this, it doesn't take a lot, but it can start to really have a big impact.
Yeah. Or even if you're driving the car, just give yourself that feeling that you're putting a belt round your waist and you're tightening that belt.
Mhm.
You do that while you're driving the car,
Yeah.
So there are things that you can do, aren't there?
I do not recommend tightening your leg muscles, though. Not unless you're having to apply the brake. But you're absolutely spot on there. So these are little things you can just do at any point in time. You don't have to jump and do a big thing.
Yes, yeah.
So we're going to probably continue talking about Kilimanjaro for the next 6 weeks and probably beyond, to be honest with you, because we're only, we're a month, 4 weeks away from boarding the flight in Heathrow. So I'll be getting the train down to Heathrow. Well, I'll be down to London and the tube across, and then meeting you there on the 12th of September. And then from there, we'll head over to Tanzania. So we'll obviously continue this conversation all through that period and kind of give you guys lots of updates. So do keep an eye on the social channels for our adventures in Kilimanjaro.
And here's my little bit of trivia around Kilimanjaro that somebody uncovered for me. Apparently, the Swahili word for mountain is Kilima. And Njaro, it actually has two meanings. One is great and the other is white. So it's Kilimanjaro, either the white mountain or the great mountain.
I think it's going to be a great white mountain at the
Yep,
top.
absolutely. So that's our battle cry. Njaro.
Nice one. I love it.
So, a big thank you to all, as always, for taking the time out to listen to this episode of the Fit for Business and Life podcast. The Fit for Business and Life podcast is brought to you in partnership with Sharp Fit for Life and the Business Buddy Network, helping busy professionals and their teams become healthier, happier, and more higher achieving in business and in life. If you'd like to join us as a guest, or you'd just like to get in touch to know a little bit more about what we've talked about, then we'd love to hear from you. Just simply email hello@sharpfitforlife.com. Once again, thank you for listening to this episode of the Fit for Business and Life podcast. The Fit for Business and Life podcast is produced and presented by Wax High Limited. Copyright is applied.